Finding the right pedals for your EMTB can be a game changer. We're going to cut the crap and talk facts about flats and clips. Pedals take on a lot. They carry pretty much all your weight at certain points of a ride. They get dragged over roots and rocks, and also they get submerged in mud baths. It's really not an easy life. The clips versus flat debate has been rumbling on for an age, but what makes the perfect pedal? Let's find out. Using some fun pedals, we're going to try and explain all the key features that you need to identify to work out what's what when it comes to pedals. So when it comes time to upgrade, you'll have all the knowledge. What's a clipless pedal? Okay, it's a bit of a confusing term, but here's a clipless pedal, for example. So the term clipless refers to the fact that, well, let's go back, let's travel back in time. Early mountain bike pedals used to have toe clips and straps. So that was where we were based. Then the newer automatic pedals came out in the kind of early 90s, and yeah, they didn't have that toe clip, so they were called clipless, even though you do clip into them. It's a bit confusing, but now we know the term. So rather than using a leather strap and this weird toe mechanism at the start, modern day clipless pedals use a dedicated mechanism on the pedal, sometimes on both sides, sometimes on a single side of the pedal. They also have a dedicated cleat. This cleat will be specific for the system that you're using, but thankfully there is almost a standard of standards where you've got these twin slots on shoes, so you'll need dedicated shoes to mount the cleats inside. The dedicated cleat clicks into the mechanism on the pedal. It uses a small spring latch, often on the back of the pedal, to open up. The spring you have to overcome is quite tight, but it is adjustable. So yeah, the mechanism works by pushing in and clicking all together, so it's a really tight interface, but with a heel twist, you can unclip. Flats, in comparison to clipless pedals, where they've got a mechanism and you've got the cleats, a flat pedal is really simple. You've just got a simple parallelogram shape, you've got some pins, and effectively that can make this magic synergy of a really wonderful ride experience. There's subtlety and there's detail in a flat pedal, and we'll go into a bit more detail later about how the different shapes and different pin combinations can make a really good pedal a really great one. When clipless pedals were first introduced, they were all about XC. So they were really small and really light. Thankfully, downhill racers demanded a larger platform, and that's not because they need more support or more grip, because the cleat takes all the power and all your force through the pedal. But a larger platform makes it easier to ride when you're unclipped, and it makes it much easier to clip in as well. Some systems like this one have a spring-loaded mechanism that means it's really easy to clip in. You can just glide your foot into place. Since the early designs, loosely based on iconic 80s BMX pedals, mountain bike flat pedals have really grown and developed. They've gotten a lot wider and they've got a lot longer as well. But thankfully, they've also got a lot thinner. That's down to some clever metal work and some clever bearings. All of this means that you're going to have a really stable and supportive platform. The majority of modern MTB flat pedals are a parallelogram design, and that means that when you're riding along, if you off pedal and you try and catch the pedal again, unlike a caged pedal where, because of the flat edge, you could accidentally stand on it and then flip a pedal and then catch your shin, the parallelogram design means that the pedal will roll into your foot. Some subtlety in shaping in terms of a scalloped sort of concave in the intersection is really great as well. One thing that's really trendy at the moment is super low profile pedals. Sometimes they come with some compromises. The added benefit, as touted, is that you've got much more ground clearance. Personally, I think that the super low profile pedals, whilst, yeah, it can give you a little bit more clearance, I think a lot of people overthink that thin pedal, when actually they should probably think a lot more about when they're pedaling through rock gardens. Some clipless pedals offer pins. Now, just be mindful, these aren't to offer more traction when you're clipped in, because all your pedal load and force will go through the cleat area. These offer a little bit more help when you're trying to find the pedal, so they'll offer a little bit of proprioception. You'll know where those pins are with your shoes, and also they'll offer you a lot more traction when you're unclipped. Just be mindful, however, that certain shoe combinations and certain pedal combinations, the extra grip of the pins might not mean that clipping in and unclipping is as smooth as it can be. So whilst the clip pedals don't offer as much adjustment with pins, they do offer lots of adjustment through the cleat. So different cleats will have different amounts of float, and also you can adjust the tension on most pedal systems. The tension is what holds you in. So effectively in the mechanism, you've got these really small springs, and if you're on a high tension, that's going to give you a really locked in feel, but it will mean that it's a little bit harder to clip into because you've got to overcome that spring, and it will also be a little harder to unclip, again, because you've got to overcome that spring. So high tension will be tougher to get into, lower spring tension will be much easier to get into, it will be much easier to get out of, but with some systems you've just got to be mindful that that spring tension is what's holding you into the pedal system. So if you're riding really rough terrain and you drop your heels a lot, you just have to pay attention to that spring tension. I touched on float, and it's a kind of a bit of a weird term, but essentially it's how and where the cleat moves before it starts to disengage the cleat system in the mechanism on the pedal. So some systems will have lots and lots of float, others will only have sort of 5 degrees of float, and that's 2.5 in either direction. So you do have to set your cleats up really precisely, but there's a link below into how to set up your cleats in a video. On most good flat pedals, you'll have adjustability on the pins, and that will be the positioning. So do you put them all in? Do you miss some out? They'll also have adjustment in terms of how high they are and sometimes what shape they are. Now, the subtleties between the different pins and the different heights do look small, but underfoot they make a really big difference. Longer pins offer lots more grip and lots more bite into your shoes. Play around with where you're positioning those longer pins for more grip. So think about how you can put longer pins on the back and front section to make a real concave section so your foot will really sink in and those pins will bite into your shoes. Just be mindful, if they can bite into your shoes, they can also nibble at your legs. So just play sensibly. Often entry-level pedals can be okay for a season, but what happens if you get heavy-handed with the jet wash? What happens when you flush out the grease and add in some grit? I think a really good pedal is one that you can get spares for and get serviceable parts for. Fun have got a full listing of all their spares available, so it's something worth noting when you're looking for pedals. Lots of pedals are fully rebuildable, so don't feel like if a bushing has gone, that's it, the pedal is over. No, you can rebuild it and keep it going for years and years. Actually, a nice feature on these fun pedals to help the pedals last a little bit longer is their grease port. So it's a little Allen key there and you can just squeeze in more grease and flush out the bad dirty grease and put fresh stuff in. It's a great little feature. With clips, due to the mechanism on the inside, it's a full metal affair with the pedal body being made out of metal. With flats, you can get resin versions as well, which can be really good. But I'd say that the alloy option is, especially for an e-bike, a much better option. You are going to catch roots, you are going to catch rocks, and whilst a resin pedal can take some knocks, the alloy is going to last a lot longer.
Thanks, Owen. Great bit of tech there. Right, when it comes to what pedals I actually use a flat pedal. What's the reason for that? Well, I think possibly 2 or 3 reasons. A is that I'm a control freak, and B is I like the freedom that a flat pedal allows you to have. Possibly coming from a wet and boggy climate and location has a bearing on what type of pedal I use, because off cambers, roots, technical sections, I think in places like that there is more of a chance of you kind of coming unstuck. So I don't like being clipped in because I feel constricted. I feel that, you know, the pedal is ruling me, whereas with a flat pedal I can just get my foot off in an instant and get it back on in an instant. It's not just the pedal itself, although when it comes to the pedal, I actually like quite a straightforward pedal. This is the Fundamental. Hasn't got any pins in it because it's a display version. When you look at this pedal, it's the right shape and size, but also it has the right pin length. Combined with the pedal actually is the type of shoe you use. So compound is important. The width of the shoe in the right place, so it interacts with that part of the pedal, just as so. So it's a bit of a combination, getting the pedal and the shoe right. So this is a Fox shoe. I mean, I use lots of different shoes. I use, in the winter, there's a really good Physique Nanak, I think it is, which is a Gore-Tex shoe. I think it's possibly one of the first shoes which is kind of waterproof. I do still use my wellies, contrary to what many people believe, because I think with a heel, you can actually get that anchor point onto the flat pedal shoe, which you cannot do on a clip, although I'm sure Anna will tell you otherwise. So that's about it, folks. It's about the combination, it's about the freedom. And if you look at some of maybe the greatest World Cup downhill results ever, Sam Hill, Chris Kovarek, you know, they're all done on flat pedal shoes.
For me, I'm all about clipless pedals, both on e-mtb and normal. I guess I started my career in cross country, so it's only natural that I moved over to clipless because it gives you a nice, secure, strong pedal stroke. And when I moved over to enduro racing, I kept them, mainly because that's what I was used to, but also I just really enjoyed the security over rough stuff. My feet were always in the right place, and I always felt like, well, I wasn't going to be bounced off the bike if I went over anything bumpy. And also it kind of forces me to commit to technical objects as well, where a lot of people praise flats because they can take their foot off. Personally, I feel like if I end up taking my foot off or I end up in a tripod position, then I don't feel as balanced on my bike. So I feel like clips force me to stay in a position that is better for tackling technical terrain.
There's a lot going on, even with a simple flat pedal. But hopefully by understanding more about pedals, you'll know what to choose when it comes to upgrading your bike and what pedals. We've had great insight from Anna and from Jonesy. So yeah, choosing a pedal is all about what you need from the pedal. And you know, whether it be clips or flats, there's, you know, only you know the right... No, I'm not sticking to the script, that's rubbish. Clips, no, you just want to run flats. Morgan Shah, Sean Palmer, obviously Sam Hill, have all got this amazing foot out, flat out style, thanks to flat pedals. So yeah, that's the end of the discussion. Flat pedals are the best. I mean, obviously, if you've got your own opinions, put them in the comments below.